you said something just a minute ago where something lit a fire in you. And I feel like, when I first started, when I first found keto, I was like, oh my God, a light bulb went off. Suddenly there's this thing that I thought I was doing correctly, this sort of standard American diet, low-fat diet. And now I'm doing keto and I feel like $1,000,000 and I want to tell everybody about it. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to, really try to get the word out there. And that fire kind of drove me for a few years. And then this thing has sort of become mainstream, not mainstream, but it's become way more popular. And I go through periods where I feel like, am I still as fired up about this as I once was? Like, this kind of has become sort of status quo. So how do you keep the fire lit? How does the fire stay lit for you? Naturally? Do you have to find things to kind of fire you up? How's it go for you in that regard?
Dude, I've been at this since 2004 when I initially went on the Atkins diet. So 2005, I've been pretty much active online teaching and talk. So I don't want to hear about how you're struggling to. I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, for me, the brain never stops. Like, I always think of, okay, what's an angle I'm not hearing being talked about? It's why I've branched into other areas of talking about things, because there's just only so much you can say about eat real food and cut carbs. Because at the end of the day, that's the crux of the low carb message.
Right.
So why make it worse? But what people want is they want community. They want someone they can relate to. It's why I don't care I still have weight on the body. It's why I talk very openly about health markers being just as important as your weight markers. It's why I talk about things that would be embarrassing to me, and even like things that are shameful for a lot of people to talk about, like their trauma. I don't have problem coming up with ideas. My problem is you should see all the ideas I throw to the side because I just don't have the bandwidth to get them out there. And I do daily content on Jimmy Rants. I do 3 podcasts a week. I do daily social media. So it's like I'm always using these outlets to get messages out. My problem isn't content. It's where do I put all the content?
You do put out so much content. And I wanted to ask you how you kind of balance, because I know you're always, I think all of us are kind of always learning, but and trying to educate and doing that at the same time as someone who doesn't have, the fancy letters after their name. And people, why should I listen to this guy? Is he a doctor? Like, why what does this guy have to say about anything? How do you sort of navigate that? Like, is it sort of, here's the information, do with it what you will? Is that the mindset?
Exactly. I tell people, don't believe what Jimmy Moore tells you. Listen, absorb the information, process, and then see if it's appropriate for you. I think one of the things that gives me a little more moxie over non-credential than other is I've written a whole hell of a lot of books. Oh, that doesn't hurt.
He's been holding on to that book for a good 13 minutes now, waiting to hold it up like that.
Oh, I have
it's been in his hand. He's got them all. Keto Clarity, Cholesterol Clarity, Guide to Fasting, Keto Clarity Cookbook. Real food. Oh my God, keep them coming. How many total?
9.
Now
here's my indie books that I did long million years ago.
Wow.
The one I'm about to show you, I never show on camera because I'm so embarrassed by it. But it was the book, my very first book I ever wrote, right after I lost the weight. And it's I never show this book. Please don't go on Amazon and get this book.
Wow. That is, I mean, I appreciate good design. I've never seen anything like the cover of that book, man. Woof. The confetti.
Dude,
holy cow.
I was so new, but I've gotten pretty good at books now, so.
That's another thing I'll get into in a minute. I'll let you finish your current thought, but I have something with regards to that.
Yeah, so I don't worry about what people say, because we have to get beyond this information is somehow harming you. No, information is informing you. So, okay, the person that's informing you doesn't have PhD, MD, RD, or any D after their name. But this dude ain't stupid. I've interviewed thousands of people over the career that I've built podcasting and interviewing various experts. I've talked to them all. So it's not like I'm invalid because I don't have those credentials. I feel like I have about 10 honorary PhDs with all the information and knowledge I've built up over the years. But I don't need that. I think the reason people stick with me, Aaron, is I'm them. And if I'm relatable, if I was an RD, they'd say, "Oh, of course you say that because you're an RD." It has a lot more moxie to just be Jimmy Moore and nothing else, because they're like, that's the everyman that I'm trying to relate to.
Right. That's fascinating, because that's kind of how I have approached things. Like, I'm just some dude doing this thing. Like, hopefully this, you can identify with some of the stuff I'm going through. That's kind of what I've tried to put out there. The thing that I wanted to touch on with regards to that book is I'm tiptoeing into sort of putting out a cookbook just in PDF form, getting my toes dipped into the water a little bit. And honestly, seeing the cover of that book is very inspiring, because I was like, oh man, if that's a book, if that cover made it into the world, not that one.
I knew which one you meant. You meant this nasty one right here.
I was like, if that thing with the confetti made it into the world, I could, I might not be in bad shape.
This one sold maybe a couple thousand. It wasn't, but this one sold 10,000 copies, which is what got me my book deal.
Even with your mug on it, it sold that many.
Oh, right? Like El Guapo, so.
Okay, so your tips on sort of getting into that. Like, I find myself, I'm trying to make progress on this thing every day. It's just this PDF little cookbook I have coming out. It does have a definite slant to it, a definite sort of niche that I'm aiming for. And I'm writing it. I'm getting the words in there. I seem to be fussing about the pictures, fussing about, I want to sort of attach videos via links in it. Those haven't started yet. It's tough. Some days I feel really inspired to work on it a lot. Other days I'm doing my 9-to-5 thing and I get derailed, and then it's like a week before I touch it again. So what are your tips on authoring a tiny little book?
Ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer to that question is, I want to help people, I have a fire in my belly to do it, and I'm motivated, then you're on the right track. If you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And you kind of go, stop writing now. Because it's never going to get done. You're not there yet, and there yet. And I think every time I put pen to paper, metaphorically speaking, actually typing, I'm always thinking, okay, I can't wait to start writing on this thing. And so when I'm writing books, my first draft is just bleh. I just stick it out. Care about grammar or spelling, although I'm good at both, but I don't worry about it. And I put it down on paper, and then I go back to it later and go, oh, well, I didn't mean to say it there. Let me add a little more. And it just kind of builds on itself. I think people, the whole phrase, you can't build Rome in a day. You can't build a book in a day. You have to kind of look at songs. And it's like, even like reverse weight loss. Like, think about weight loss is this little chunk, regain. Little chunk, regain. And it's just like, you have to look at book writing in the same way. You're not always going to go, I got the power, and like go and hit it every single time. Sometimes you're going to look at that blank page and go, I don't know what to write to.
Well, that gives me hope, because I'm just finished like the barfing phase. Like, it's all out. Like, I've written way too much. I feel like I've got way too much. So, I feel like it's decent. So at this point, I'm just sort of like kind of trimming the fat, so to speak. Although, why would I do that? But getting it culled down a little bit, so it's a little bit more digestible. And then it's just the technical stuff on top of that it is kind of, I'm throwing a monkey wrench into the works for myself, I think.
Much is always the best form of a manuscript. When you have more than you can work with, that's called refining. Like, even when I do a social media post I write, I do a rough draft. I just get it out there. I rewrite that thing 10 to 15 times. Mm-hmm. I stop, I read it. No, I didn't mean to say that. And then, of course, you're within the confines of the limits of Instagram and that kind of. So it's like, okay, I just want to finish that word. Okay, what can I take out up here to, and you kind of formatting thing. But refine. This is where people mess up when they're trying to write. They don't do enough refining. And it's refining where you connect to the final audience. Because think of it this way. You know what you're saying. You know what you're trying to say. And the less words you can use, to say what you're trying to say, the better.
Pith.
Yes.
We're not swearing at each other.
Pith, yeah.
I get it. That's very encouraging to hear. Thank you. The 9 to 5, man. That's the monkey wrench.
Yeah.
It's like there's like the 9 to 5, which is a responsibility. There's the book, which is something I really want to do, and there's sleep, which is a thing that I feel to work on either of the other things I sacrifice. So
I can tell you one of the scariest parts of my career was when I decided to leave the 9 to 5 and embrace this as a full-time endeavor. No guarantee of money, no nothing. And that was in 2006 when that happened. The Live and Levita Low Carb show didn't exist before then. All I had was the blog and somewhat of a following, people starting to follow me. And I took a risk, Aaron. I think we talked about that before.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about this several times.
Yeah, so I took a risk and decided, you know what? I'm buying into Jimmy Moore because he's pretty damn amazing, and he's going to succeed. And I went into it with that positive mindset that I would. Now, you have family considerations. You got kid in college. You got a kid going off to what I see freshman in high school the other day. So, I mean, you've got stuff. I had a little more flexibility than you did. But you're close, man. You could branch off and do this full time if you figured it out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because of this whole working from home thing, it has become, I feel like I get the same amount of work done, and I'm not wasting 5 hours with busy work pretending to work, you know?
It's the economy of time.
It is.